Now I've got to follow that act. That is a tough act to follow. Welcome everyone. My name's Nicholas Kontopoulos, and I've got the great pleasure of taking you through a topic that I'm deeply passionate about. But I want to first of all thank everyone behind this event. This is an amazing opportunity, as was said at the start there, for us as a community to come together, to learn from one another. And my objective today, in my short time I've got you as a captive audience, is to share some insights that I've built up over the years. I'm going to throw some mind grenades at you, get your brain juices fired up, and hopefully, if I'm successful, you'll take one or two ideas away from today's event, and then be able to start thinking about this in terms of how you can apply this to your business. And we're going to do this by taking a look at what the future of customer experience might look like. So we've heard a lot of talk about customer experience over the last 5 years. In this region in particular, I see a lot of brands really investing deeply into customer experience as a strategy. But a lot of businesses are still grappling with this. And I want to also take a look at what the future might look like in terms of a customer, how are we as consumers evolving. So I'm going to challenge you today, start off by first and foremost listening to my talk through the lens as a consumer, as a buyer, as someone who goes out and buys products each and every day. Obviously don't completely discard your professional persona, but I want you to really think about this as a consumer. So irrespective of the business you're in, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of the role you play, think about what I have to say today through that lens. So I'm going to start this talk by actually taking you on a brief journey of my own consumer sort of history. I was born in 23rd of April 1971. I know I look like I'm in my 20s, but I'm a sprightly 47-year-old. But when I look back and I think about my consumer journey, basically all my decisions were made for me by my parents in my early stages of my life. And basically my parents' primary focus was over my security, my physical needs. That's what they were focused on. But I do remember the first product I wanted, the first action doll. It was He-Man. For those of you who are old enough, you might remember who He-Man is. He was the master of the universe, and I really wanted him. So that was my first consumer purchase that I remember. As I got older, my influences started to change. My next phase of my life was Kiss. I loved Gene Simmons, man. He was my dude. I painted my face all the time. I had Kiss posters, much to my mother's horror. But Kiss became the next sort of consumer trend, I guess you could say, that influenced me. And actually, by then, my friends started to play a big role. This sense of belonging became a key driver for me. I wanted, to obviously, follow the trends that my friends were following. Miami Vice. Who remembers Miami Vice? That's me dressed as Don Johnson in the middle there. I started modeling myself on Don Johnson. I didn't have the supercars or the supermodels, sadly, but I at least thought I was dressing like him. So my friends started to play a big role in influencing me. Then I moved into the 90s. I'm now working. I'm now making money. I've got spending muscle. This is the era of the yuppie. So I wanted the mobile phones. I wanted to look the part of a businessman. Branding became quite an important part of my decision-making influences. So that was sort of the 90s for me. Then I moved into the 2000s and my priorities changed. Now, I meet my lovely wife, I have kids, my priorities shift to my family, away from me and more focused on my family. So that was sort of my brief walkthrough in terms of my own consumer journey. And I'm going to take you, like I said, on a journey today, and I really want you to think about this in terms of your own journeys. When I think about how I've found myself in the career I'm in, I've always been interested in people. That's why I guess I gravitated towards sales and business development and marketing roles. Always had this interest in what makes people tick, what drives them. And I've also been really passionate about helping people solve problems. I remember at business school, I was exposed to this concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this concept, and it really resonated with me. I've had the great fortune to have traveled to about 65 countries now across the world, and when I was exposed to this model, I was really intrigued by it because what I saw was that there is actually more that unites us and divides us as people. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs is basically based on this pyramid. And we look at, ultimately the first stage being the need to cater to our physiological needs. Safety, security, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization are the steps that we go on. And we start, obviously, at the bottom of the pyramid and we work our way up as we grow. Now, if I take this model and much to Maslow's horror, modify it, and look at it maybe through the lens of how we as consumers have evolved, this is a very rough and ready tweaking, but I think if we go back to the pre-industrial age, businesses that were focused then were mainly focused around solving for the physiological needs, yeah? The next stage, we move into the industrial age, products like safety and security, insurance and banking become, offerings that we start to consider as of focus. 80s, this is now the sense of era of belonging. This is the Pepsi generation. We move into the 90s, then we start to see branding become a key focus for us, people taking more emphasis on, luxury goods, etc. And then I would say we've now reached this age, as you move through this pyramid, as we as consumers as a group move through this period, and as our, we see our spending power increase and our sophistication in how we make decisions expand, we move into this last stage of self-actualization. I think this is where, customer experience becomes quite a key point of differentiation for us. This is where authenticity, transparency, are becoming key themes now for us as consumers and how we make decisions. But before we continue to look forward and look at what the future might look like, I want to also take a look at where we've come from through the lens of as marketers, because we've also seen a lot of change in terms of marketing departments, and they're a key audience that we're all interested in helping engage consumers today. So let's have a look at that. If we go back to the 70s, and I actually think the 70s was a key pivotal point in the digital revolution. We always associate digital revolution to today, but in actual fact, if we go back, it really started in the 70s. This is where we started to see technology starting to have a major impact on businesses. We started to see technology creating new opportunities for us as businesses. Marketing departments started to be able to use data for the first time in a sophisticated way that enabled them to start segmenting their customers. We started to look at positioning, how we positioned our solutions and offerings to customers through the use of technology. As we move into the 80s, we start to see technologies to emerge. We start to see these technologies particularly emerge in a way that enabled us as consumers to start actually, having a bit more control in terms of the conversation. We see the invention of, things like the mobile phone, a very early stage, but we start to see also content marketing become a topic. This is Apple. 1984, they came out with what I would say was groundbreaking content marketing. Cable TV gave us more choices in terms of the channels we could watch, and therefore, as marketers, more opportunities to connect with those audiences in different ways. We also, with that, took on more control of how we engage with brands through these different channels. As we move into the 90s, this is, again, we see an explosion of technology starting to take place here. This is where consumers are now really starting to take some control. Mass media becomes a possibility for us. We can start engaging at scale with our audiences. We can start, transacting business through what was the early days of e-commerce. This is when Amazon first launches, yeah? So again, a really pivotal year. And as we move into the back end of the 90s, that was the first .com era. A lot of the businesses that launched back then were actually quite sound businesses in terms of what they were trying to do, but there was some missing gaps there in terms of technologies, capabilities to support those businesses, but also our consumer behavior wasn't ready yet for those early days of e-commerce. 2000s, now the pace is picking up. We see a lot of change happening here. We see a lot more channels coming online. Facebook, YouTube, Google, these are all empowering us. We now become truly connected. We're starting to talk to one another globally. We're starting to have a lot more control over these conversations, as I was sort of alluding to earlier. We basically, the mobile phones become ubiquitous, in terms of the technology. Now we see content marketing or marketers using push and pull tactics in terms of how they engage their audiences. So again, a really exciting period, but the pace doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It's not waiting for any change. It's now accelerating. We're now starting to see even more technology coming online, even more possibilities, even more opportunities for us to innovate as marketers, to engage our audience. It was quite an exciting time and still is. Actually, I would have argued if I go back one slide, What year here is the most pivotal year in terms of technology change? I'm going to throw that out to the audience. What year? If you look at that, one year there, for me, was particularly pivotal. I actually think it marks where we really saw the acceleration of digitization of how we engage. Anyone want to take a punt there? Okay, there we go. I love that answer. Actually, I'm going to go a little bit earlier. I'm going to say 2007, all right? That's going to be the iPhone, but I love that answer. That was a good one, yeah? So 2007, the Apple iPhone is launched, yeah? This is actually quite an important milestone, because what we see there is a couple of things happen. Steve Jobs was a genius, not in terms of just his product design, it was also his timing. He brought to market, obviously, a beautiful product, but he did that at a time where we saw two other technologies converge, and this is a key word, convergence, yeah? We saw 3G and Wi-Fi technology converge at that same time, because none of these technologies or ideas behind them were really new. I mean, they've been around for some time. But what became possible then is he delivered a platform that was able to access content pretty much on the move, and therefore changed the game in how we could actually interact. So as we move into the present day, what we see now, really is a focus on, how do brands connect with these consumers that have become increasingly sophisticated. And again, we see this level of trust and transparency becoming a key ingredients in terms of how we engage today's audience. And like I said, think about it as a consumer. What's important to you when you engage a brand? So if we zoom out and again look at this through the lens of channels and how many channels we engage our audiences with, it was quite simple back in the old days. I could actually, in the Industrial Revolution, I had horseback, we had, simple telephone systems. We could engage an audience pretty easy, yeah? It wasn't too hard. But then we move into the 80s, and we're now moving into the digital revolution, information age, and we start to see, multi-channel becoming a strategy for us as marketers in how we engage that audiences. This is great. I've got lots of channels that I can spam people through, yeah? But then we start to realize actually consumers are getting a little bit more sophisticated. They don't want to be spammed. So we then start to hear this idea maybe 5 years ago or talk around omni-channel. Omni-channel became the buzzword because we're in the age of customer. And that's been really the focus point for the last 5 years. Now, my problem with the notion or idea of omni-channel, and when I say problem, I actually think it's a sound strategy, and we need to have an omni-channel strategy, but my concern with it is more of a concern is that when I look at people and when they talk about omni-channel, they're coming at it from a technology-led conversation. They start with the tech, and that's the point of failure that I still continue to see happening on a global scale, in how customers are still tripping over themselves when they come try to create this amazing customer experience. They're not necessarily thinking about the three key pillars that they need to be thinking about. And no new ideas here: people, process, and technology. How do I bring these together? And I think omnichannel has a tendency to be too technology focused and also inside out focused. So what I'm challenging people to think about is that we're now entering a new age what I'm calling the channel as customer. This notion of us as consumers now no longer thinking in terms of channels, yeah? So that's going to be the primary focus point for my talk today, and what I mean by that. Okay, and the reason this is important is because the reality is, we have changed, yeah? We have changed. And Brian Solis, if you don't know who he is, follow him. This guy's a genius. I've been following him since 2007. He's been pretty much on the money the whole way. And he talks about, us being in a new era of marketing and service where our brands are ultimately defined by the experiences we deliver. And this is a reality, yeah? Ultimately, we decide based on the experiences, we make our decisions based on the experiences we're having with a brand at any point in time. It's like a banking system. Yeah? Every positive experience I have is a deposit. Every negative is a withdrawal. And when it comes to renewing a contract, buying a car or an e-commerce system, I weigh all that up and I make my decision based on the sum total of that experience. Yeah? So the fact is, our customers will go elsewhere if we can't provide a consistent and high value engagement experience, whether it's physical or digital. Yeah, and again, this is the other thing that's really important. I'm challenging leaders to think about this in terms of their physical and digital experiences of delivering, because at the end of the day, we don't care how hard it is to bring that together. We don't actually assess a brand on, wow, that's a really great physical experience, but their digital is not so good. We look at the sum total of both those, yeah? It's really important because our ultimately, again, as I said earlier, our journeys used to be a lot more predictable when it was fewer choices. But as we've seen, in the slides I've shown, it's become a lot more complicated, yeah? There's a lot more choice. We're chasing customers all over the internet, all over the planet. I got people chasing me wherever I am, whether it's in Singapore or Shanghai. Ads are pinging me everywhere, yeah? But guess what? I'm getting smarter. I know how to game the system. I know that if I fill my shopping cart up and abandon it, within 24 hours, 48 hours, I'm going to get a discount, yeah? So I'm gaming the system. They're smarter. Our consumers are becoming smarter than us, and they're taking advantage of the fact that our businesses haven't evolved fast enough. This notion of digital Darwinism that Brian Solis coined, I think, beautifully sums up the challenge. The fact is, we as consumers and the cultures that we wrap around us are evolving faster than the businesses that are trying to capture our attention. I'll give you another test, yeah? When was the sales and marketing funnel created? And no one that's been at one of my presentations can answer this, yeah? This is a quiz I often ask. No one's got it right yet. So when you think about the sales and marketing funnel, you know, this is a model that's been around for a long time. When do you think it was created? What year? Yeah, looks like we've got, no? You're going to take a stab? Don't worry, no one's got it right, so you don't need to worry, yeah? 1930s, good. Anyone else? Huh? 70s, good. Both wrong, sorry, but I thank you for taking a stab at it. 1898. 1898. That is the 19th century. We have a business model that's still being used in the 21st century that was designed for a completely different era. Guess what? It doesn't stop there. Branding, devisualization of labor, all the core principles that run most of our businesses were designed in the by the 20th century. Yeah? So it's a real challenge when you think about it. We've got a consumer that is eons ahead of the businesses trying to serve them. And that's actually a big key problem for all of us. Now, the reality is a lot of people are hoping and praying this will go away, but I'm sorry, it's not. As we know, the change in itself is changing. It is relentless. It is increasing in pace. It's only going to continue to get faster and faster, and our ability to adapt to that has to take place. We have to change our mindsets. And this is just as much of a challenge, not to your businesses, but to each and every one of you in this room today. This is a challenge for each and every one of you today. And if you flip back into your professional persona, if you're not willing to understand what is taking place, you're going to find yourself becoming redundant. Yeah, we need to adapt to this reality. We need to see the opportunity that is in front of us, and we need to seize that. So again, let's look at this. And the reality is we can't fall back into, okay, well, let's just take our legacy systems and try to stitch this, reconfigure it and stitch it together in the hope that we can solve these problems. That's not going to work. Again, we need to look at understanding that these systems were designed to stand alone, to operate independently, and more often than not, they weren't considered as part of an ecosystem of capabilities coming together to be able to deliver that seamless customer experience. So there ultimately are reactive solutions that are being put into place at the moment. We need to think about how we get ahead of this, and we need to understand that this explosion of potential is not going to stop, as I said. We're just continually seeing new channels, new ways of engaging coming online. Now we hear VR, AR are the next sort of wave of technologies now coming online, now starting to find their way into the consumer experience. And it's not going to stop there. And it's presenting real challenges for businesses. Real challenges. This research out of the EU, where they looked at telcos across 7 markets, showed that customers saw their experience being materially worse than when they were using when they were using multiple channels versus a single channel experience. Yeah? It's a real challenge for businesses. And the fact is, we don't care about single touch points. Who actually goes into a shopping experience thinking, I'm in the retail experience now. Yeah, now I'm moving into the email channel. Now I'm moving into the mobile channel. We do not think like that, do we? We do not think like that. What matters to us is the aggregated sum total of those experiences. What we care about is you making it easy for me to do business with you. You taking the friction out of the experience, yeah? That's what we care about. What we don't care about channels. In actual fact, a channel for us is just a window into your brand. So there's two key problems here that we face. There's the mindset problem each of us individually has in terms of understanding what this means for us and how we can work together as a team, as a tribe inside of an organization to break down the silos. Because at the end of the day, that is still, this is talked about I've been in this space for a while now, yeah? Silos continue to be the issue for businesses. The fact is, they create insular cultures, behaviors, processes, and policies. They flourish in these silos. They have guardians sitting above them, protecting those silos, because that's where maybe they derive power from that, whatever the reason. But these are becoming real blockage points for us to really drive innovation. We need to understand that we have to knock these things down. These functional guardians are, constantly at risk of losing sight of what's going on in their organization when they think in this siloed mentality. So we need to think about how do we tackle this problem, yeah? We need to look at, the reality is that most of our organizations have been designed around a very transactional relationship. And as a result of that, we've actually lost sight of the customer. We often see them as a number, account number, policy number, whatever, dollar sign. We've been organized to be focused on productivity. Let's make our sales guys more efficient, our marketers more efficient. Let's optimize. But we lose sight of the people in that process sometimes. And not just the customers, the employees is also, employee experience matters as well. How do we empower our employees to deliver on the brand promises we're making each day? I will put to you that the only way you can do this is by understanding how your customers transact business with you through an entire journey. Not in terms of channels, but in terms of the whole journey. Again, research shows, if you look at the Forrester Customer Experience Index, the brands at the top of that are businesses that understand this, that are solving for this continually. The businesses at the bottom of that, who are underperformed by about 30 or 40%, are businesses that don't get this, don't understand this, aren't making the investments. Ultimately, touch points are transient. They occur within channels. Journeys are holistic. They're independent of channels. Ultimately, they're channelless. They don't think in terms of channels. They don't engage a customer in terms of channels. Now you might be going, oh my God, Nicholas, this is all too hard. I'm freaking out. Maybe I should just retire from my profession and become a monk and go into the hills of, and get away from this. But actually, there's a huge amount of opportunity for all of us, personally, professionally. There's a huge amount of opportunity. I encourage you guys to lean into this. We're seeing a huge mega trend in terms of behavior change and how consumers are buying. For us in our industry, in particular, e-commerce is growing globally. We're seeing a huge shift in this direction, and people wanting to transact businesses digitally or engage through e-commerce channels. In Asia, in particular, we're seeing massive growth, and it's only going to continue to increase. In actual fact, this region is growing faster than the rest of the world put together. Yeah? So a huge amount of opportunity for each and every one of us in this room today. It really is quite an exciting time. I'm actually, every day I get up and I'm just amazed at the possibilities that exist there. I get excited about how I can help our customers solve their problems, how we can help them become more competitive, how we can help them get an edge on their competitors. But to do that, we need to evolve. We need to understand. We need to adapt to this new reality. Yeah? The reality is the businesses are evolving at a rapid pace. Our customers are. We need to streamline how we operate as a business. We need to understand that omnichannel isn't the only solution. I mean, I don't want to say omnichannel is dead. Omnichannel is definitely not dead. We need to think about our strategy and omnichannel strategy. But what I'm arguing here is we need to put the customer at the heart of that. And contextually, connecting with our customers is very much going to still remain a constant here. This is surfaced as a concept out of the omnichannel sort of world. Contextually relevant content is going to be still really important for us. We need to focus on how do we connect with our audiences in the right channel, the right time. But I think the next phase will be about how we bring the front and back offices together in terms of from a customer experience. So it's not just about sales, service, marketing, e-commerce. It's also about logistics, supply chain, finance, legal, our partners that are part of that experience, that ecosystem of people. Ultimately, the key word is going to be convergence. That's a key word for me now going forward. How do we converge the business? How do we bring the business together so that ultimately we can actually create a holistic, beautiful customer experience that's consistent, that is scalable? That is going to be what's going to be the next generation, I think, in terms of thinking that we need to be embracing. The end goal of digital transformation for me is about engaging our customers through an endless mesh of options so seamlessly it becomes channelless. That's what I think we need to be thinking about in terms of how we architect our customer experiences going forward. And businesses are doing this in this region. If I look at China, is a great example to me as a market where I have seen a level of sophistication that I haven't seen elsewhere in the world, in particular when it comes to the consumer. I would argue that the Chinese consumer is most probably the most technically savvy consumer on the planet in terms of how they use technology. You know, WeChat has transformed the consumer experience in China, and Jack Ma has seen this. Now, what I call channel as customer, he's calling new retail. I would like to sell him my label of channel as customer because I think new retail is not so great, but he's a billionaire, he doesn't really care what I think. But we're ultimately talking about the same thing here. He's talking about how we integrate the business around our customers. How do we put the customer at the heart of the business? And that also means thinking about the employees, as I said earlier. So it's not just about the customer, it's about bringing all of this together. It's about understanding that we need to collect this data that we, aggregate this data that we're collecting and build a cloud of data on our individual customers and understand what is it what makes them float? What do they look for out of a experience? You know, we need to do this. We need to look at how we close the loop between the front and back offices. We need to integrate the business. We need to collapse these silos, these organizational silos. We need to actually work with our customers, co-create with them, sit down, actually talk to them and ask them, what do you want from us? Why do you buy from us? Are you still buying from us for the same reasons you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 months ago, 1 day ago? Understand why they buy from you. And in order to do this, we need to work closely with our customers. A great brand that's doing this out of Australia is Ascent Group. So I'm going to play their video, a short video from them that sort of walks through their transformational story. Hopefully the sound will work. No? No sound? All right. I'll jump ahead, Dorian. We'll skip we'll skip that. So Ascent Group is a major retail brand in Australia. There are a number of different shoe brands. So Athlete's Foot's one of the iconic ones out of Australia. They have got distribution centers, digital stores, flagship stores. They've got stores right in the deepest parts of Australia. Yeah. So they wanted to look at how could they improve the customer experience? How could they aggregate all of this inventory that's sitting across all of these locations? How could they unlock that inventory and also serve it up in a way that enabled me as a consumer to get access to the shoes that I wanted when I wanted? How could they get those shoes to me, whether it was in-store or through click and dispatch? So they've invested in creating a really great experience and bringing that inventory together. Fantastic example of a business that's really reimagined how it can organize itself around its customers. And actually, the numbers show this, that they're delivering really impactful results for the business. Another great example, I don't know if the sound's going to work on this one. No, not working. Okay. Another great example is Aoki. Aoki are a Japanese retail suit company. Traditional as they come. When you first work in Japan as a young guy, you might go and buy your suit from these guys, your first suit. So what they realize is their demographics are obviously changing, the way their consumers are buying has changed, and they recognize this. They realize they had to change the way they operated. So they launched Suitbox, which is a completely new business model for them. And this brand basically enables me to go online, pick a suit, shirt, tie, everything based on my fittings and my taste, and then I can order that and have it delivered to me on a subscription basis. So I can actually then wear that suit for a week, a day, a month, whatever. I just pay my monthly fee and I send it back and they'll send me a new one. It's like the Netflix DVD model that originally came out. So the same concept, really cool idea in terms of how they can actually change the game in what is a traditional industry. Yeah. So these two companies are great examples. I'll give you guys links to the content on this as part of the deck when I share this out. Definitely encourage you to take a look at them. Shep Hyken, a good friend of mine who I've dealt with in the past, he's a great thinker in CX, and he said this really well. People think customer loyalty is about the lifetime. It isn't. Loyalty is about the next time and every time. We need to keep that front and center in mind. We need to understand that in order for us to evolve our business, we need to know all we can about our customers. Yeah? And in order to do that, we need to be able to bring that data together from across the ecosystem, understand how their behavior is evolving, so we can start to anticipate what they want from us. Yeah. So this is, again, for you that you guys know who we are. We're here today to obviously learn more about how Magento is stepping up to this challenge, how we are helping evolve our portfolio to engage this channelless customer. That's going to be a key focus for today. You've got a room full of experts here that are willing to share those insights, and we want to learn from one another. We want to learn from the community as well. So really excited about this. You're going to hear a bit more about our acquisition by Adobe and what that new world of possibilities that brings later today. I'm really excited about that, genuinely excited about the capabilities that Adobe and Magento now can bring to our customers. It's genuinely an exciting time. I want to close out on a couple, this last quote actually, from Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker was a great thinker. He was well ahead of his time. And he said it here, because the purpose of business is to create a customer, the business enterprise has only two basic functions, marketing and innovation. Marketing and innovation produce results, all the rest are costs. Now, as a marketer, I love that quote, clearly, yeah? That makes me feel really important. But the reality is, if Peter Drucker was here today, he'd update that quote. He'd update it, he would say customer experience and innovation are what matter. And customer experience is the entire enterprise. It's IT, it's marketing, it's finance, it's legal, it's our partners that we're working with, coming together, innovating so that we can actually drive great customer experiences. Our focus has to be relentlessly focused on taking the fear out of doing business with us. We don't want our customers freaking out when they've got to dial our contact center. We want them to know that their digital experience is going to be as consistent as the physical experience. We need to be able to adapt to their new tastes, their new behaviors, the new ways that they're buying from us. We need to look at how we can also move the relationship or engagement level to an individual level, not just personal, but to individual level. This is the goal. This is the holy grail now. How do I actually connect with Nicholas Kontopoulos at a personal level, at an individual level? We need to look at how we can do this, because the reality is if we can tap into the physical and digital channels and bring them together, harness all of the six senses that we have, we can actually create some really cool engagement that actually drives both top and bottom line results. So this is a journey. You're not going to solve this in one day, with one solution. I'm going to give you some free consulting. I'm not going to charge at all for this formula. OP plus NT equals EOP. OP plus NT equals EOP. This will save you a lot of money. Old process plus new technology equals expensive old process. Yeah? Focus on that. Keep that formula front and center in your mind when you invest in this, because at the end of the day, it all starts with our customers, understanding how they behave as people and how do our employees engage with them. Yeah? If we do this right, we're going to make hopefully a lot of our customers happy that want to come back to us and keep buying from us. Okay? One last ask. Don't wait for permission. Go back, be rebels, get into your organization, go talk to your colleagues in the other departments. Don't wait for your CMO and CEO to figure this out. They most really won't. Go in and drive the change in your organizations, because this is the opportunity. The fact you're in this room here today demonstrates to me that you're actually actively looking to drive change. So go in and be that change in your organization. My name's Nicholas Kontopoulos, so it's been a great pleasure to present to you today. I'm here all day and I'm looking forward to meeting you guys later today. Thank you very much. Cheers.